morning. Good afternoon. My name is Christine Bergeron. I'm the president and CEO of Vancity Credit Union. I wanted to begin by acknowledging that I'm speaking today from the lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. They've been custodians of these lands for thousands of years, and I'm always so grateful to be able to live, work, and play here in beautiful Vancouver. I'm very pleased to join all of you today at this year's summit. This event seems to get bigger every year, and that says a lot, I think, about the value that Payments Canada continues to bring to our sector and to the Canadian economy. So I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation to speak today about putting social and environmental principles at the center of our business models. What felt like quite a niche conversation among relatively few business leaders just a few years ago has quickly become one of the topics for every business event. I started my business career as a venture capitalist more than 20 years ago, back and forth between Vancouver and Silicon Valley. It was an exciting time and place, a lot of innovation and entrepreneurship, a boom in new technology, a lot of money being invested, a lot of future profits to be had. And yet something was fundamentally missing. In all that incredible churn of talent, energy, and money, the most important global problems were basically ignored by capital as it chased things like social platforms. So here we are today. We did get Snapchat and Twitter and a lot of other connected technologies that have radically changed our world. They created huge growth along the way and concentration of wealth too. But we also still have conflict, runaway inequality, and a planet that might just not be able to sustain us all. And I realized early on that decisions about what gets financed really matter, that our current models of how the economy should work are a little broken, and therefore not serving as many of us as they should. And people are calling for change. When it comes to businesses they buy from, deal with, and invest in, people increasingly care about the impact businesses and the suppliers they use are having on people and the planet. At the same time, consumers and investors have grown more sophisticated at spotting when companies are just paying lip service or greenwashing to appear as though they're taking action when they aren't really. And so this isn't just about giving money to charitable causes while continuing to operate from the same basic assumptions that led us to this point. This is about embedding impact on people and planet into the core of a business model. So that's all business decisions, operational, hiring, procurement. Every decision needs to have an impact lens alongside the profit lens. So how do you do this? How do you stay profitable while doing that? At Vancity, it's something that we've been doing for years. We are a for-profit cooperative and a profitable one. But thinking about the impact of our actions on people and planet is ingrained in both how we make our profits as well as what we do with them. So I thought I'd share with you how we approach this and the key lessons that we've learned over the years. And first, I did want to say something that hopefully is obvious to many of you. I know there's no one answer for all companies. Having shareholders presents a very different challenge than being a cooperative, member-owned institution or being a privately held one. So investors have legitimate expectations to be paid for the use of their capital. But I've also worked with all kinds of companies with different models, and every one of them could figure out an approach to embed a real impact calculation into business strategy. So let's get started. Lesson one, how much is enough? So 20 years ago, when some of us started investing in clean tech, most people said it was too capital intensive. You can't make good returns on that, they said. 10 years ago, some of us in the business community started looking at how to add impact to risk return models. And people would ask, well, what do you mean adding impact to a risk model? Do you mean dropping returns in order to have a positive impact, trade off returns for all this responsible stuff? Business isn't a charity, they would say. Of course, business does have to make a profit. But I'll admit, I've always questioned the basic premise that maximizing returns matters above all else. And the fact is, if the economy isn't about people, each of us and all of us, then it isn't about anything that matters much at all. Caring only about business performance for the next quarter hasn't worked very well when you look at it from a wide range of social factors that, after all, will come back as economic ones. So we need to start thinking about business in longer terms for the next generation. Learn from Indigenous people. They've known for centuries that successful societies think about their actions in terms of the next 7 generations. So as a society, we've come to accept at a certain level that it's okay to externalize the costs of a bad business model, with taxpayers often paying the burden for social or environmental harms. But that is now changing fast. Both consumers and investors are demanding much more accountability from all of us in business. So yes, a business has to be profitable to be successful. That is a given. But a truly successful business is one that doesn't maximize profit at all costs and with no regard to its impact on people and planet. Rather, a truly successful one is one that cares about how it makes its profits and what it does with those profits. My perspective is that a truly successful business ensures that the community around it is also thriving. Okay, so even if you can wrap your head around that, how exactly do you do that? So lesson number 2, impact is also your bottom line. Profit continues to be part of your bottom line, so you're still a for-profit business, but maximizing profit is no longer the only goal that matters. So rather, making a positive impact for people and planet becomes a parallel strategic business goal. So what this means operationally is that you start setting impact-based business targets alongside your profit targets. So at Vancity, for example, we have targets for increasing our overall assets under administration, a standard metric for most financial institutions. But we also have a target for increasing our triple bottom line assets under administration, the assets we define as both generating a profit and having a positive impact on people or planet. And that's the asset category we work really hard to grow. Of course, if we have impact-based business targets, we have to come up with the strategies and plans for achieving those targets while continuing to generate a profit. So for us, these impact targets are also part of long-term executive compensation, similar to profit targets. We have impact targets and we've seen our growth accelerate and we've seen our profitability accelerate. So in other words, we see success and at the same time, we intentionally do not pursue profit maximization. Lesson number 3. Again, possibly this is obvious, but you must operationalize the impact. It can't stay only at a strategic level. So obviously targets and strategies, always have to be operationalized in order to become ingrained in business decisions. So we have a vision and value statement, just like most organizations, but we've also translated our vision and values into ethical principles that guide every one of our business decisions. So we put policies in place that guide different teams in applying these principles. So for example, we have these policies in place for business lending, for our community investment work, and our procurement. So I can give you a quick example. When we look at a business loan application, we apply a holistic assessment process. So we do what every financial institution does. We look at financial risks and returns, the acronyms you would know, LTV and DSC. But at the same time, we also look at the impact that putting our members' capital into a project will have with respect to people and planet. So we ask ourselves whether this aligns to our values. We apply a specific set of guidelines to the assessment. So the combination of financial risk return and the impact potential of the project then drives the decision making. It doesn't mean that every single business we fund is having a positive impact per se, but it does mean that none of them are doing harm. It also means that we have an opportunity to help these businesses along the way with advice, networks that they can tap into, and more. Lesson number 4, values and impact belong to everyone in the organization. Organizations, as all of you would know, make thousands of decisions every day. And it's those decisions that determine both your impact and how people see you. So your organization needs to clearly articulate its vision and values, the impact it's trying to achieve or avoid. And that direction has to come from leadership. But your real goalpost has to be that each person making a decision in your organization understands who you are as a company and what you're trying to achieve, and then embed those values in each decision that they make. The values have to be held everywhere and by everyone in the organization, across groups and teams and the patterns, processes, and culture. Then your values can show up in your daily decisions, in how everyone in the organization responds when the going gets tough, because at some point it always does. And that's what you should be aiming for organizationally. Of course, this is very difficult and people will make mistakes along the way, but it should be the aim. Lesson number 5. Don't be afraid to continue learning, to take time to acknowledge that you might also need to change. Vancity has long been an environmental leader among Canadian financial institutions, and we thought we were doing quite well. But we did gradually realize that we needed to do more to help fight the climate crisis and to help ensure that the climate transition is a fair one that everyone can take part in. And so when we looked around at what other financial institutions around the world were doing, we also realized we could do more. So we went back to the drawing board. We engaged internal and external expertise. At the start of 2021, we announced a set of climate commitments, headlined by our commitment to hit net zero by 2040 for our entire lending portfolio. And these commitments have now been embedded into our business strategy and planning. So we've created a business unit focused on implementing these commitments, target setting, planning, measurement, reporting. And we've aligned our community investment business unit to be a major tool for delivering on these commitments. And we've done the same in other areas of impact as well. So very briefly, after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report came out many years ago, it was clear to us that we needed to change. And in 2016, we formally made reconciliation a core Vancity value and then began building relationships with Indigenous partners. We, of course, continue to learn every day on that journey. And so when we consider impact in our business, there are things that we know today to be harmful that we maybe didn't see 5 or 10 years ago. And so there's always new ways of having a positive impact that we couldn't have imagined. And our peers and competitors are always innovating and learning too. They inspire us to do better. So if you're an impact-focused business, you have to be ready to learn, apply, innovate, evolve, and you have to be ready to be transparent about your journey, share it with others, because that multiplies your impact. And that's actually what helps your impact bottom line. At the end of the day, we're trying to make a difference in the community, not necessarily demonstrate just the value that we can bring. So a few final thoughts. We have certainly seen some strides over the years. We now try to costing carbon. We generally care a lot more about externalities. We even use the term externalities and ESG. And I think it's absolutely fair to say we've improved. But we do need to go further and faster. All of us, each person in this virtual room needs to keep influencing and changing business so that we start work on transforming our economy. It's not enough to minimize our impacts on the earth. We need an economy that actually factors impact in, that sees protecting the earth as a basic business assumption. When disparities in wealth get too wide, societies break. And we need an economy that guarantees equity for all. I'll end with something that I said towards the beginning, is that if the economy isn't about people, each of us and all of us, then it isn't about anything that matters much at all. And so I really hope that some of what we've learned along the way will help your organization lean into making a greater impact. And with that, thank you so much for having me here today. Happy to take a few questions and welcome Robin to join me.
Thanks, Christine. It's great to be here, and what a great session. I've been a long time admirer of Vancity, and especially now when we hear about these real strategic goals that you're putting in, not just lip service. So well done. One question I had was with regards to sustainability. Was it something that was always built in Vancity's values before you started adding it into your strategic objectives?
Yeah, again, we come from a bit of a different starting place. So we were founded 75 years ago, and it was really people coming together who were underbanked ultimately. And so our goals have always been about how do we better serve and how can we be a more inclusive financial institution. And so we've had 3 pillars for a very long time around environmental sustainability, social justice, and cooperative values. So those have been there for many, many years. And so ultimately, in a way, it's been part of strategy, but I think what we've done over the last little while is become much more focused and much clearer on some of the bigger rocks that we're trying to really help push. And we are often known, so if you are here in BC, for our work in community, but there are some larger systemic issues that we now are embedding into our strategy.
Thanks for that. And then just in the last minute or so, what do you see as your organization's greatest opportunity within this realm?
Well, I think the greatest opportunity, I always view the threat and opportunity as, those different sides, right? It's a very, very big challenge to decarbonize a portfolio. It's also a really great opportunity for us. It's about working with our members to help people understand what they can do, to work with municipalities, policymakers, to actually see us move that dial. I think there's a huge opportunity there. Most people want to do good work. Most people want to help the planet, but they don't always know how. They don't always have the resources. And so I think the opportunity is to, give them the tools, work with them on solutions, and come up with these creative ideas to actually make a difference for, next generations and this generation too.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, and all the best on your pioneering journey. And we hope that some other institutions can take some lessons from what Vancity is doing. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks for having me. Take care.